I'd like to say it was as easy as the scoreline suggests, but it just wasn't, mate. Hey, what's poppin', people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. Chelsea 3, 1-2-3, West Ham 0 in the London derby in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. Huge, three massive points against a team in West Ham that are playing incredibly well under David Moyes. Very organised, and they always score. I think they scored in their last 12 Premier League games. Clean sheet for Chelsea, 3 goals. Was it that easy? No. We're going to get into it today. There was a lot to talk about. Ultimately, a really positive result. Chelsea played really well at the beginning and really well at the end, and a lot of something or rather in the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to dissect this game for you today. Please do consider subscribing to Football Therapy if you are new to the experience, as there's daily content here regarding Chelsea Football Club and you might dig it. And if you want to help me out, I'd really appreciate you dropping a like on the video. I know it's boring, YouTube is saying that, but it really does help me out, so please do drop a like as we move into our match review. Alright then, so Chelsea were of course coming off 2 Premier League losses, both away to Everton at Goodison Park and Wolves away as well. So we're in desperate need of a win. Now there's no shame losing to Everton at Goodison Park, and Chelsea, well, not great shame, but Chelsea often struggle there. The Wolves game was concerning because there was a lack of character, a lack of fight back, and it was bad. So this game we started incredibly well, very positively indeed, but for the large mid-section of the game it was far too evenly contested. We were getting loads of overloads down our right-hand side, and there was a lot to be frustrated about, and I just didn't enjoy watching the football match. You know, sometimes when Chelsea are playing well, even if the scoreline isn't great, but you just sense they're playing well, you enjoy watching it. I wanted that football match to end. I mean, not just because it was 1-0, just because I just didn't enjoy it. There was a sort of sense of anxiety and unpleasantness. But Chelsea came back into it, and this is football, man. You got to hang in there through the unpleasant times and believe in your team and believe in the quality. Again, it wasn't an awful opposition. West Ham are very good, and they're very good at the moment. So it's a massive win. Goal scored by Thiago Silva and a brace from Tammy Abraham. Early doors in the match, birthday boy Ben Chilwell jolted his ankle. It looked really unpleasant actually, and he had to come off, and Emerson Palmieri came on. We scored not long after from a set piece. I think we got the most set piece goals in the league. Thiago Silva for his second Premier League goal, ghosted in the box, tucks it away nicely. It's actually a very nice goal from the Brazilian. Superb scenes. We love Thiago Silva. Chelsea conceded a few chances. There's not loads of like golden chances that went begging for West Ham. It was more the sort of passage of play, losing the midfield battle, them constantly going down our right hand side, their left. You know, they left you feeling vulnerable as a fan. For the vast majority of the game, Bowen and Rice were playing very well. Declan Rice, I don't think it's his fault really that they shipped free, but he was moving the ball very, very well. Some great passes and a couple of good interceptions. But Jared Bowen was always a threat for us. He drifted out to the right and then he'd come inside, and he would always lay off that ball to Cresswell, who was running in completely unmarked. Now maybe that's because Azpilicueta was tucking in out of possession more as like a sort of centre-back, but it was concerning and it didn't really work for us at all. Towards the end, latter stages of the game, in the second half, Chelsea start passing the ball. They just start keeping hold of possession, which was the huge problem, and as soon as that happened, they relaxed a little bit more. And Tammy Abraham scored Chelsea's second, alleviating a lot of pressure. I think it's from a Werner shot, who we'll talk about Werner's performance in this game. We'll go through player performances very shortly, and Tammy Abraham got on the end of it. I didn't celebrate because I thought he might have been offside, but he was onside, well onside when he made his run. Ultimately, an excellent day for Tammy Abraham, which we'll also get into in a second. And then Chelsea score the third through being comfortable, starting to express themselves. The anxiety is lifted, the 2-goal cushion, and they start playing their game again like they were doing in the early 15-20 minutes of the first half. Some superb work from Pulisic down the right-hand side, I believe, driving with the ball. He was great in this game. Excellent offensive work from him, gets the ball into the final third, and it ends up Tammy Abraham scooping in another goal for his second, Chelsea's third, and from there West Ham sort of deflate and everyone understands what the narrative of this game will end with, if that even makes sense. Right, so let's look at the lineup quickly before we get into player performances on the Who Scored graphic. Edu Mendy kept his place in goal, and he was a little bit better this time than he has been recently. Azpilicueta, of course, was playing right back in the absence of Reece James. Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma both played centre back. An interesting stat, Chelsea are the only Premier League team not to concede from a cross this season. You can thank both Zouma and Thiago Silva for that. Chilwell started at left back, but he quickly had to come off because of his injury, and Emerson Palmieri came on. Jorginho played the 6, flanked by N'Golo Kante and Mason Mount. Tammy Abraham up top, flanked by both Timo Werner and Christian Pulisic, who are rotating sides. Now, it's worth mentioning at this point, it wasn't just Timo Werner and Pulisic swapping wings. Actually, throughout the majority of the game, N'Golo Kante and Mason Mount were swapping their sort of channels as well in the number 8 roles. Of course, when Jorginho came on, Kante came down and Kovacic went into that number 8 role. So that's how Chelsea lined up in this game. Let's move on and talk about player performances. Edouard Mendy in goal, better. You can tell he's a little bit shaky in terms of his confidence. He's not as confident as when he first joined the team. There was a moment when he punched the ball when he absolutely should have caught it. But generally he was good, and I'm pleased with his performance. Azpilicueta made 2 vital blocks from the right back position in the space of 2 minutes that very much kept Chelsea in a commanding position. Not the best going forwards, left a lot of space for an overload, but in terms of defending, he's always a 7 out of 10 for Chelsea, and I say this every single match review when he plays. Both centre-halves are very good for me, but they sort of kept West Ham out. Of course, Thiago Silva scored a great goal, so he deserves massive props for that. He was excellent, passing the ball with both feet, Zouma eating most stuff out of the air. Superb! Now, Emerson wasn't very good, to be honest, but, you know, he doesn't really play. He's a backup left back at the moment. A couple of good moments. Really, he let people in behind him. I don't want to get on his back too much because he was brought in last minute, and you know, he does try, and he can be okay, Emerson, so I feel bad criticising him. Jorginho is good at passing the ball forward quickly and metronomically, but I think we were losing the midfield battle when he was playing in that role. I think he is very good at times, Jorginho, for certain opposition. I genuinely don't think this was one of those games, and I think our midfield was a lot better when Kovacic came on and Kante slotted in, and perhaps the scoreline would dictate that. So Kante, I thought, was good. He's better when he was sort of pulled back, but I thought he was pretty good in the 8 role as well. Obviously, he doesn't offer that much of an offensive threat, but we know what he is, and he does a job there, and he was fine. I thought Mason Mount was excellent. When Chelsea played better and relaxed, Mason Mount looks like one of the best players on the pitch, if not, you know, joint best player on the pitch. He suddenly comes alive, he runs for 95 minutes, always puts in the effort, always makes the right pressing at the right time. I think he was excellent. The commentators were saying it as well. I was very pleased with Mason Mount in this game after he's been pretty poor the last previous games, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very good to see him come out and perform well today. Pulisic was excellent. He'll feel frustrated with himself when a touch got the ball away from him. I think maybe in the first half when he probably would have scored. He looks like he's very high in confidence, Pulisic, and that's great. I'm very pleased with him being back in the team. He just looks good. That's all I need to say about Pulisic. We all love him, and he's a super attacking threat. Now, Tammy Abraham only got his goals very late on, but I was actually quite pleased with his performance. He was making the runs, and I think because we were losing the midfield battle, it wasn't really getting to him that much. There was one moment where he could have had a hat-trick when Kai Havertz came on later and played that immediate prodded pass, and Tammy was like caught on his heels and then ran after it. If he was on the same wavelength as Havertz, that is a hat-trick goal for him. And I was actually really pleased to see that from Kai Havertz, because that was a really sort of silky, intelligent, quick move. But we know he's got that. You know, there's a reason why Kai Havertz is like one of the highest rated players in world football. He is that. I know some Chelsea fans who didn't know him prior to Chelsea might struggle to see that, but that's what he is. When he's in form and confidence, we'll see a lot more from Kai Havertz. And Timo Werner, let's talk about Timo Werner. So he missed a sitter, he hit the bar, which wasn't a sitter by his standards, it was, but by his standards, he should be finishing that. He's clearly devoid of confidence because his touch is off and he's poor finishing. You know, this is probably the worst form he's been in for years. Classic Chelsea striker curse. Well, maybe not, because Giroud and Tammy are both in form. It's frustrating, but I do want to caveat that with, in the last 4 games, he's got 2 assists, and he's been, you know, really bad by people's standards, and by his standards, but among those 2 assists, he got one today, of course, and one at Leeds, he's making the right runs, he's getting in the right place, he's pressing. I don't think he's really comfortable in the left wing role. Yes, he'll be better in the striker role. It's playing off one big man where he's at his optimum sort of level. But yes, it's really, really bad. I think it would do him good today, nearly scoring, as awful as that sounds, getting an assist and being part of the 3-0 win. So the pressure, he'll be talked about, but it won't be massive like pressure like, he missed 2 sitters and Chelsea ended up drawing. We've won 3-0 and he's getting in the right spaces. So anyway, that's my review of today's game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have, please do drop a like, it means a lot. And I'm really keen to get your thoughts and opinions on this game in the comment section below, so please do drop your thoughts. I'm malfunctioning now, so I'm gonna end the video. Enjoy the football, and I'll see you later.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I love me baby.